for students. I am confident that she will be a strong addition to our special education team, and I'm pleased to recommend her tonight to the board for your approval. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education hire Marina Ryan to be a teacher starting with the 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
Okay, I heard Heather, so I'm gonna give it to Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next, I'm gonna ask, I think, Deb? To come to the podium for our next introduction. And before I do that, you may come. Our secretary is missing, so I'm going to ask Deb to be appointed secretary for the meeting. I should have done that at the beginning. I had it written down, and I miss it every time. Okay.
Good evening. I'm recommending for your approval the employment of Corinne Bird for a teaching position, specifically an ELA teaching position at Williamston Middle School for the 25-26 school year. We conducted 3 rounds of interviews, 2 in which included administrative team, teachers, and ancillary staff, and then the final round with Dr. Spina. And during the interviews, Corinne really demonstrated her expertise in active engagement strategies and scaffolding instruction to meet the needs of learners, 2 of many aspects that are very important to us at Williamston Middle School. When I conducted the reference checks, I first went to Yale High School, where Corinne has served as a teacher for 6 years at Yale High School, and then 3 years at Queen Creek High School in Queen Creek, Arizona. So Yale High School administrator said that he has an exceptional ELA department, and Corinne has established herself as another tremendous asset to their school. Her classroom management style is student learning centered, and she engages students in the classroom around the lessons, targeting success and the success criteria. The department chair noted that Corinne is very effective in her instruction, assessment, and classroom management, and she incorporates activities to make learning more engaging for her students. Also, I wanted to note at Yale High School, the principal noted that he was a principal at a middle school for 5 years prior to his role at the high school, and that her strategies are very effective at the middle school level too. So it is with no reservation that I recommend your consideration for her hiring at Williamston Community Schools.
Any questions? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education hire Ms. Corinne Bird to be a teacher beginning with the 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
So I have a first Deb, second Sarah. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Congratulations to both of you. Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much. Hello again. Thank you so much. Exciting. Thank you.
Okay, then moving through our agenda, this is the time for citizen comments. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to step to the podium and address the board? Okay, moving on to celebrations. Adam.
Good evening, board members. So celebrations, I preface this time of year as usual with the caveat that there's a lot going on and it's impossible for me to remember or capture everything that's worth celebrating, but I'll try to hit the highlights and hopefully at some point through one mechanism or another publicize all the great things that happen this time of year as we enter into this season of celebration and concluding another successful school year. 2 website stories to highlight today. The first one is regarding our baseball and softball teams. Obviously a lot, especially right now with athletics, and all our teams are doing extremely well, but it is kind of unique to have both your baseball and softball teams invited to these two invitational tournaments at the end of the year, which arguably are the most important tournaments in the state. Sometimes it's even considered more important to win these than advance in the state tournament, although obviously you'd want them to be successful with both. Last year as well, both baseball and softball were also earned invitations to these events, and with the baseball team advancing to the championship game of the Diamond Classic, which I haven't had this proven, but I'm pretty sure if we didn't set the attendance record at MSU's baseball stadium, it was pretty close. I mean, I've never seen anywhere near that many people at a college baseball game, let alone a high school game. So another great example of our community support rallying around our athletic teams and our students. So anyway, looking forward to seeing how both teams do in that event. The schedule and the brackets are up on the website, and as you might expect, the championship game is on the night that we have a board meeting, so never fails. The other event, the other website story that we posted was kind of a year in review for the Williamston band program. I reached out to the schools and the departments to highlight achievements that get rolled up or summarized in the community newsletter that gets mailed out. Actually, that'll be going out this weekend to all the members of the community, our points of pride for the year. But the band program actually gave me a really nice summary of all the different accomplishments they had this year. This is no different from any other year, but it was such a nice roll-up, and I couldn't fit it all, obviously, into a one-page summary. So we published a highlight of all the different accomplishments of the collective band programs and the individual students and what they've achieved this year. So details posted on the site if you're interested in reading those in more detail. A couple other items that are not on the website, but I'll highlight. The Be Nice Club at both the middle and the high school continues to be very proactive in their outreach to the community regarding student mental health and awareness, bullying prevention, and suicide prevention. And so a couple events that took place recently, the Be Nice soccer game about a week and a half ago, and then they also participated in the brand new festival on Saturday. We're out there for the duration with resources, Be Nice items for purchase, and just being present and involved. Fortunately, it wasn't the greatest of weather days on Saturday, but they were repositioned themselves under that big tent that was put out at McCormick Park and stuck it out throughout the duration. So I do want to note that and how important that constant messaging is about how important that is to our schools and inviting the community to be active participants in looking out for the health and welfare of our students. This week in general is a celebration of our seniors, the class of 2025. There are events throughout the week culminating with their last day of school and all the traditional Williamston celebrations that take place on Friday. But that includes Senior Project Day, Senior Awards Night, and their paint fight, which is on the last thing they do at school on Friday. So what a way to go out. But looking forward to sending the class off with a really fun week. And obviously, we'll see them again at commencement in June. And then finally, on behalf of our staff, do want to thank the board and our broader community for all the support and messages of appreciation and thanks that we received during Staff Appreciation Week. We have a lot of service organizations, individual families, and businesses that really go above and beyond to let our staff here know that they're valued and appreciated. And so I know the board was very generous this year with your thank you message as well. And that has an impact, especially this time of year where it gets very challenging and very busy. So thank you to the board, and thank you to all those families, businesses, and service organizations that took the time to recognize and appreciate our team here. Those are celebrations for this evening, pending any questions you might have.
Any questions? Okay, moving right along. We do not have an educational update, but we do have our superintendent's report.
So, and a quick note, the ed update is again kind of pushed to the later in the agenda because we're going to combine it with the handbook, but the middle school will kind of be giving their update for the year. The superintendent report for today. The next two regular meetings we have are on June 2nd. This is going to be a busy one. We have handbook and education updates from the preschool and the high school, as well as the final budget amendment and projected budget for next year based on the very specific information we have right now from the state. That was sarcasm, but we'll do our best. We might also have a very significant curricular update on the 2nd, and we'll see if all that comes together. So a lot going on June 2nd. The 16th will be the final meeting of the year, and I think there'll be a bunch of other things, but the experimentation with the new superintendent progress report based on the new evaluation system. So I'll be experimenting with filling that out and see what you think of it, since it's the first time we've tried that with the new law. Committee meetings on the 27th of May is the Finance and Facilities Committee, and then on the 23rd of June, this is a new one, the Policy Committee has scheduled a meeting for that afternoon, on the 23rd of June. In the packet, there is it's on a slide, but basically a handout type document that outlines chronic absenteeism rates throughout high schools in the county. This was something that was put together by our high school administration based on available data that's publicly available to just kind of compare what our chronic absenteeism rate looks like compared to those of other high schools in the area. As you can see, this is a significant problem, not only in our county, but throughout the state and the country. Schools can't help students learn if the students aren't at school. So as you can see here, Williamston does exceptionally well in terms of ensuring that our high school students are at school, and where we can, again, assist them with their education. And I think there's a combination of reasons for this. I do know that schools work very, very hard to get students at school, and they deal with a lot of different circumstances, some of which are applicable to Williamston generally or in specific circumstances, and others that are more prevalent perhaps in other communities. But I would credit our community in general that has high expectations of their children and their school system, and I think also in particular our secretarial team, who sets the expectation and the culture right off the get-go, with the fact that kids will be at school and they will continue to call and call and call until they're able to track down each individual learner if they're unaccounted for. And that starts right from the time they show up for preschool or at Discovery Elementary, and it continues that way throughout their time. And so I think creating that culture, that expectation, right off the jump as kids start their education in the school, it goes a long way towards the statistics that you see there. And then finally, bond updates. I haven't personally seen it yet today, but a lot more progress was made on the tennis court demolition. It's gone. There is no more tennis court. Even the courts are actually gone, so it's just a big gravel pit out there right now. And that was tremendous progress for 1 week of work to essentially remove the entire old court. So things going well there.
Can I ask one question on that?
Yeah.
So I know that on the old courts, the biggest problem was the root system underneath. So are they going down a certain period to remove all that?
Yeah, and I can't give you the technical specs on how that works. Actually, so Andrew Dobbs is from Christman. Later on today, he might be able to provide that. But yeah, that is part of the plan, that they're excavating down to ensure the foundation is solid when the new surface is poured.
Yeah, I thought so. Thank you.
And that was, of course, as you mentioned, that was kind of what got us into bind with the current courts, and the fact that they were continuing to sink and crack and break. And so that is the intent, to correct that permanently with this project. We have, using a staff team at Explore, we have selected the flooring for that building. That was a considerable amount of time and effort that went into making sure we were picking the right types of surface for classrooms in the hallways. The answer is we're going to go with carpet in the classrooms and then laminate, similar to what we have here in the boardroom for the hallways. And you'll hopefully get to see more about what that design looks like here in the very near future. The architects, engineers met with the city last week to continue the discussion on how the site plan will work and everything from water drainage, where all the hookups are, and so we're continuing to work collaboratively with the city on that. And then the big update will be the softball bids and the update on the softball project, which you'll hear about during action later on the agenda. The last notable update is Brandon Weingartz, who will also be presenting this evening. He has established agreement with a company to come in and remove the old high school and middle school furniture after the new furniture has arrived or is in imminent status of being here over the summer, and that obviously will be a huge effort to do that furniture swap out in the summer months. But that has now been coordinated, and as soon as the new stuff shows up, we'll be able to action that plan. Those are the updates for the superintendent's report this evening. I'd be happy to address any questions that you might have.
Is Brandon gonna talk about the removal of the furniture?
No, it's not scheduled to, but I could
Well, I
answer
just have a
anything.
question. I mean, are we getting paid for the furniture, like as scrap metal, or are they just donating it to someone, or is it gonna go in a landfill? Like, what's happening to the furniture when it's being removed?
I'll see if he wants to answer that when he's up here later. If not, I can run down the answer for you.
I can talk now, or you want me to talk?
What's your preference? You want me to answer now?
It's up to you. You can answer now or when you come
You
up
want me to go to the podium, or?
to, nope, you can just sit right there if you want to.
I'm
You
working
can-
with a scrap metal company, who the band uses when they do their scrap metal draft in the fall, figuring out, is it worth scrapping, with some of the materials, it's some part of our metal, some are part of our plastic, some of it's wood. So we're trying to figure out, is it even worth it right now? We're still in that phase. There's a school in Flint, I don't know which school it is, but they're looking for desks, so they're gonna come and pick up 60 desks, from either the high school or the middle school, from us that they need for their district. I was gonna reach out to like St. Mary's and St. Martha's, see before we get rid of anything, if there's anything that they want to use. If it's not worth scrapping, then it's just gonna go, that'll lead us to the landfill.
Darn it. Any other questions about updates? All right. Sarah, ISOA.
We had our last meeting of the calendar year on May 7th, and it was a great turnout. It was online, and it was 2 days after Jason Melmo was here at our board meeting. He talked to ISOA representatives about what the ISD general fund budget will look like next year. A lot of guesses also as far as the federal funds and things like that, but talked about Medicaid, block grants, the special education distribution formula, and of course the state budget, all of which he touched on at our meeting 2 weeks ago. The superintendent's roundtable, there wasn't a superintendent representative because this was our last meeting. So Jason gave us an update about what is happening at superintendent's roundtable. They had an update from a lobbyist to give them some type of projection, maybe. Maybe that's not the right term, but the legislature, as we know, it's a lot of questions right now as far as what our budget will look like for next year. Some standing agenda items around mental health services, school safety, again, talking about Medicaid and how they can continue to advocate for that. Adam, do you have anything to add to any of that?
No, I mean, it's just like, speculation on different laws, bills, and what the state budget will look like. Nobody really knows anything right now, other than if we don't have our budget submitted by the end of June, it's like fire and brimstone, even if we don't have a budget from the state.
Right, so of course we have to have our budget, but as you know, it's looking like the governor will not have a budget before then. Not even likely, like it's very much that it will be after the school year starts is when we will get a budget, unfortunately. So, sorry to end on that somber news,
high.
but that's the reality of what the state is in right now. Any questions? I probably can't answer any, but Yeah.
There is the calendar on
I was just
that
gonna
came
bring that
with
up,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so ISOA will start back up in September. Let me know if you ever want to attend. There's always an option to attend virtually. This one was all virtual, but there's been, previous to this meeting, it's been a combo of in-person and people attending virtually. So just let me know.
Okay, moving on to discussion items. Brandon, so you can take the podium.
Thank you. So essentially the transportation rules and regulations, we couldn't really figure out when they were, or didn't have a date on when they were updated. Throughout the course of this year, there were a couple of incidences on the school buses that kind of made us become a little more proactive, I guess, due to issues, to updating these. No real major changes, anything, just kind of like more formatting and just kind of clean up the language a little bit on what the actual rules were. The one issue we had, or the one kind of spot where we saw like a weakness at, was there's nothing in there in the rules that said that on the school bus you need to follow the school handbook or the code of conduct. So that was the big issue that we saw, and we added on onto this form. And this is the form that parents, students will get at the beginning of the year to sign. So the first page just lists those rules, and they say there's no real additions or subtractions to this list other than the line number 8, where classroom behavior is expected and school handbook and code of conduct policies are to be followed. That's the major change on here. Same thing with the consequences on page 2. No real major changes with anything with that. We did, again, try to clear up some of the loopholes, especially like on the severe disruptions, saying like action can be taken without prior notification. So that's kind of like our, hey, you're doing something that's we consider severe disruption or severe violation on the school bus, not saying like, okay, we need to go to the first consequence and it's a verbal warning, a written warning, 3 days off the bus. It's like, hey, if it's a major issue right away, we can, get it approved from Adam to say, hey, we're taking you off the bus for 10 days or more. Sorry, it's 3 days on that one. Fourth consequence is 10 days. As far as kind of like fact checking or going through to help figure this out, I just looked at surrounding districts, Hazlitt, DeWitt, Grand Ledge, Mason, kind of seen what they have. They all have similar policies that we have. And the other thing that we kind of came up with, I think Adam kind of this flow chart. That was kind of a work in progress this year, where this fall there were a few issues, specifically with some middle school students. So working with, it was a big thing, we were working with Adam and Deb and Pam and I trying to figure out, okay, what do we do? Is this a school issue? Is this a transportation issue? So the flow chart, we hope, we haven't had to use it since we created it back in, I don't know, I think January or December. But kind of the idea is like, all right, like, hey, this is going to just help us figure out, is this an issue that Pam and I deal with transportation, or is this a severe enough issue that, okay, hey, we have the high school principals are the ones initiating the disciplinary action. Any questions?
So do all parents sign the back of this, or is it just if the student had a little oops and they need to?
I tried to figure
deal
that
with the
out, and
consequences?
I could not figure that out for sure if everyone has to. I would like it to be part of the Power School enrollment at the beginning of the year, that has everyone sign it, because even if your kid is a walker during the year, if they're in athletics, again, like it's kind of okay, double catching athletics, it's double catching any field trips,
Right.
anything with Career Center, it's kind of gathering all those. But yeah, now you don't physically sign it, but yeah, you electronically sign a Power School.
Nice. Any other questions for Brandon? Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Middle school handbook.
Okay, middle school handbook. So everyone has a copy of the memo, and I just wanted to go over page 6 and 7 are really just minor changes that we made, addressing some new hire and new board members. So we wanted to make sure that was updated. And then on page 7 is the additional position assigned Title IX coordinator to myself. And then on page 8 is a more significant change, and that really reflects that it's the non-discrimination policy, which reflects the board policy, so made that adjustment. And then also on page 8 is the minor change with the contact information for Title IX. On page 10, we changed the arrival at school from 7:45 to 7:50. The reason is really around safety and adult supervision, and it gives the students 30 minutes before the bell rings for them to open up into the school so that they can go to their lockers and then proceed to first hour. And then the early departure from school, that was really changed to represent our procedural change. So we are not requiring a parent to come into the building to sign out their child, but instead they may call or email with that early departure request, and a student can be released to a parent or guardian at that time. On page 11, we changed the grade
sorry.
report.
Do you want us to wait with our questions until the very end, or do you want me to ask? Like, my
Whichever
question?
you prefer.
I'd like to prefer to do it right now because I'll forget.
Okay, let's do it.
So, so early arrival, so students can get here at 10 to 8. They report to the cafeteria
Yes.
until 8:20. Do we have a lot of kids that get here that early? And
Not really. Yeah, I would say that the majority of our students arrive around 8 o'clock. But we do have some early arrivals,
that
but
will
it's
come
a
in?
small number of students. Maybe in a given day, somewhere between like 10 and 15 students.
And then they have breakfast, hang out, do whatever, and then head to class. Correct?
Yes.
Also then, the early departure, so if a parent had to take their kid out for the dentist, I call, say, hey, I need to get my child for the dentist at 10:20, they say okay, then I just pull up at 10:20 and the kid walks out.
Curbside, yep. And then the
Does the
students
kid
are.
need to go into the office to say, I'm leaving?
So the student is called to the main office, and then in cooperation with the office staff, the student will identify that is my parent at the curb, and then they're dismissed to leave. But
Okay.
they don't leave the building until they are able to identify that their parent is there.
There, okay, so they're just not walking out it.
That's right.
Okay,
And then we have a log that we keep so that we know, so the log has like the student, the time that they left, the reason they're leaving, and then the person that's picking them up from school.
okay, thank you.
And then the same thing with their return. So if they return, we have time in, student's name, time in, and then the reason why they are returning to school. Mhm.
Thank you.
On page 11, grade reporting, that the update is really just to update the links and accessibility to families. On page 13 and 14, we've had an honor roll for quite a while at the middle school, but we noted that there wasn't any language in our handbook around honor roll. So that was added this year to reflect our honor roll procedures at the middle school. And then our procedures for reporting an absence, it really is just updated to reflect that Power School reporting process, and it is through the parent portal now. On page 14, the automatic attendance caller, I know that Adam had referenced this earlier, in that we are diligent about making sure that our families are aware of absences. So in our old system, there was a call for unverified absences that went out at 9:10 a.m. And we now have additional notifications that go out in the evening, which is an automated call to let them know if they were absent, if their child was absent for any particular hour, as well as tardies. So that is something new that we implemented, and it's been successful. We have lower tardy rates at this point. So it really is to just increase that communication to support student attendance. And then the tardy policy is, again, on page 15, to increase that communication to support student attendance. And it's to assist parents in monitoring their students' attendance. It's that automatic call that I was referencing. On page 23, we have the cell phone and personal electronic device adjustment. So we are changing for this upcoming year. We would like to change so that there are no cell phones or personal electronic devices permitted in the school during school hours. And item number 5, we had reference to IEPs, but that also includes students with 504s. And then line item number 3, hallways and cafeteria, including lunch and recess. We had the hallway restriction, but we are recommending that we change that to also include the cafeteria during lunch and recess.
So can I ask the cell phone, so if, I just want to make sure I'm correct. So at one point, there were no cell phones, and then you brought them back they could use them during lunch?
This year is our new year with the cell phone policy, and students are permitted to use them during lunch only. So they are not permitted at the middle school to use them in the hallways or in any academic settings, but we are permitting them this year to use them at lunch and recess.
And then, so then next year, they will not be allowed to use them during lunch and recess? Is that
That's
what you're-
correct. That's what, yep.
Did you know, is there an increase of them, like just hanging out on their phone during recess and lunchtime?
So what we noticed is that the incidents that were occurring that were code of conduct violations, those incidents were very significant. And so we really wanted to reduce the opportunities for some of those significant occurrences with cell phones. And really it's about increasing the opportunities for peer interaction. So when we think about our observational data this year is when we're in the hallways and the students are without their phones, they're physically interacting with each other. They're talking to their friends as they're walking down the hallway. They're engaging with the adults. Hello, how are you? When they're in their classrooms, again, there is an increase in interaction. So it really is kind of fostering those interactions at lunchtime too. And then also promoting those physical activities when they're outside. We have a lot of middle school students that are playing outside during recess, and we'd like to just continue to increase that for all of our students.
Thank you.
Mhm. On page 34, this is attendance at Williamston High School athletic events. So we made the adjustment for 8th grade or younger must have an adult present for entry as well as supervision during Williamston High School athletic events. This is really to increase the safety of all of our students. And I know that the elementary principals already presented their handbook, and I did communicate the recommendation for this change. And both principals at the elementary said if the board did approve of this change, that they would go ahead and make the adjustments in their handbook for this upcoming year. And those changes, if approved by you, would also happen for K-8.
I think the specific component there is the elementary principals, if I remember correctly, had adult present for entry, and I think the middle school added and supervision. And so I think that, again, pending your approval of this handbook, the elementary principals would go back and add the and supervision portion to their handbook.
Good idea.
Okay. And then page 36, lockers. It is the language around students are expected to keep their belongings, their bags, their backpacks, and their personal electronic devices in their lockers, and this is really for safety. So those are the changes that I'm recommending for the handbook for this upcoming year. Are there any questions, any additional questions for me?
Again, I will just add this layout that everybody does is extremely helpful.
I remember when we used to not do it this way, and I thought about it afterward, after we started doing it. I'm like, how did you even find the changes? So, yes, I can see why it's
Took us way
a lot
longer to
better.
get through.
Yeah.
Figure out where anybody was.
Yeah.
Like, much better, thank you.
I do have one question.
Yes.
Do you expect any Any problems from any of the parents about the cell phone policy?
Well, we're never going to land in the same place with the cell phones. But what we did note is we looked at the percentage of students that are actually using their phones during lunch, and it was significantly less than we had anticipated before we went into this new cell phone policy. So I do think that there will be questions around why, but I don't think we're ever going to land completely in the same place. But as long as we're explaining it and then we're supporting that with consistent practices, I think that it'll be received. And like I mentioned earlier, like the increase in interaction this year compared to past years, I mean, it used to be like this in the hallway, and now they've really started to engage in conversation with each other. So I'm hopeful that other people will understand the reasons behind that too. It won't be 100% though, we know that, right?
Any other questions about the handbook? Okay.
Okay, so in the education update, I'm going to have Assistant Principal Adam Stupanowski join us. He is a big part of the work that we've been doing, and so we're going to both update you on our progress that we've been making. And I'm going to do my best to use this thing. I don't think I've ever used this, so.
Well, it's
See if it
always hit or
works.
miss, so.
See if it
Okay,
works.
you'll help me
If
if
not-
we get stuck, right?
If not, I will move.
Okay.
It could be me. I wonder if it just hits me in the way. I'm gonna move out to the side. Maybe it's me. Because it works
Nope,
when
it just
Adam's
worked.
here.
It
You
worked
just- Yep. it just
so
worked.
far. We'll let you know if it's not, right?
Moving.
So really, our presentation focuses on our school improvement goal number 1, which is every student will meet individualized academic growth by June of 2026. And the process to address this goal is very complex, and Adam will explain the specific steps that were involved, but it really, the framework is really administering NWEA 3 times a year, analyzing the data, working in professional learning communities, in making informed decisions about instruction and meeting the needs of all students. Oh, wrong way. Okay, and then, Chris, can you open that link for us, please?
Hmm.
I don't know that link, is it working?
We're gonna see.
Because it's attached to the board book as a PDF.
No, this was the PowerPoint.
Or
Oh,
PowerPoint. Well,
it's asking me to log in. I don't have a password. Do you have,
Do you have
do you want to
Google
sign in?
Password?
Do you want to try to sign in?
I don't know that I know that.
No, it's just the regular goes WCS.
But is she just, are you just, Deb, are you just looking for this, like PowerPoint
We
stuff?
have,
There is a flow chart.
we have a flow chart view in the link,
In the link.
which we can talk through the points of the flow chart. And then I just wondered, do you have access to this otherwise, if you
I
wanted
don't-
to?
You'd have to share it with us.
Yeah, if it's not.
Or share it with
we don't
Betsy if
have
she can get it to us.
Okay,
You just email it to Betsy and she'll email it.
okay, all right.
Well, kind of what that flow chart then was talking about was how we're going about using our NWEA data, okay? So we took 2 PD days, the November date and the February date, and what we did was allow the teachers to do an NWEA data dive, and then we also had Jared from the ISD come in and start that process of talking about some different strategies for differentiated instruction, okay? So kind of that data dive, what that looked like was teachers used the NWEA. We used a specific report. It was called the Achievement Status and Growth Report. And what that report did for the teachers was it provided them with the data if the student was meeting their projected growth or not based on that fall score and that winter score. And so once they got that data, they used that to identify who met their projected growth and obviously who did not meet their projected growth in each of their hours, okay? So once they got that list of who made the projected growth and who didn't make the projected growth, the teachers then did an even deeper dive in the student profile report, which then kind of broke down in the subcategories of where the students needed either reinforcement, or they were developing in those concepts, or they could start to introduce concepts in that area, in the areas of math and reading. That information then was used by the teacher to make instructional decisions for lesson planning. Things like, am I going to do whole group instruction for this concept, or am I going to do small group instruction? Okay. And then we also used our professional learning communities to kind of help support this decision-making process. And staff then used individual student growth and differentiated instruction strategies that were we worked through together. Like in departmental teams, the math department, English department, ELA, they all were working together as teams, and they developed instructional strategies specific to their content area, where they dove into maybe trying this strategy versus this strategy to kind of help support those students that didn't make that growth. In the grade level teams, they discussed implementing some cross-curricular supports. Examples of these things were like annotated notes, identifying skill gaps, intentional vocabulary instruction. So teachers utilize these things within their classroom, and then if students weren't being successful with these differentiated instructions, they looked at some of the other supports that we have put in place. Things like academic overtime or AOT time, where teachers then would use that for some small group instruction or specific targeted instruction with individuals. So they would, like, if it was like math, they would work with that individual or small group on concepts that they may be missing, and then the other kids were working on finishing homework that could work independently. We're also utilizing those in-school interventions, our labs, our lit labs, and our math labs to kind of help support those students that aren't making their projected growth. And then we are also looking at the MTSS process. We kind of revamped that this year, but that was also a tool that teachers could use if these students weren't making that necessary growth, and they could request and kind of submit students to that MTSS process, and then we could kind of problem solve with the group, the MTSS group, to troubleshoot and maybe think of some other strategies that haven't been thought of. And then obviously utilizing that 23G money that we've used for morning tutoring to kind of target some of those students that need support as well. And so all these things kind of work together to then help with that that NWA projected growth kind of at the end, and Deb's going to kind of wrap it up with some of those things.
Yeah, so this is a very fluid process. It involved our school leadership team. So as we were identifying our next steps with professional development, we would then observe and interact with the staff to see the response to the professional development. We're also looking to see what it looked like in the classrooms, what it looked like in AOT, what it looks like in those morning sessions. And then we meet as a leadership team once a month, so then we would collectively kind of note what we were observing and then our next steps as we would move forward with professional development. So we'll meet again this May, and that will really be kind of our work that we're going to do for our August PD, which will be a continuation of this work, and then I'll talk about our next steps in a moment too.
So can and I might have missed this. So how often are the kids screened or tested? Like, is it 3 times a year or twice a year?
3 times a year, so fall, winter, and then the spring.
Spring data.
Yep.
So have you done the spring data yet? Or is that what
We're
your
just
celebration
wrapping up
is?
with the spring testing, so data's kind of incomplete. Most of the math is in, but like our reading, we just finished that up, but there are several kids that have not finished up with that, so we don't have the complete picture on the reading data yet.
We have some data that we've looked at already, but it's not, like you said, it's not finalized yet.
Exciting.
But what part of that data that we look at too is we look to see, have the students been identified for those additional supports like Adam mentioned. So that's a piece that we look at too, or how are they responding to those supports.
And every class has this testing?
They're tested in reading and math, but every teacher has access to the NWEA reports. So we have our teacher of arts is looking at the NWEA reports, our teacher of English, and it's across our 6-8 team. Yeah. Okay. So the following activities that we were able to accomplish this year include the differentiated instruction that Adam mentioned, which was provided to all students in all content areas. So as I mentioned, our instructors in band, our instructors in PE, our instructors in math, science, everyone's looking at that information. And then our 6-8 grade level teachers participated in those PLCs. So it really was, we started with our full staff, and then we broke it down into those professional learning communities that Adam mentioned, which included our department teams, including our electives, and then also those grade level teams for that cross collaboration, and then our MTSS team, as he had mentioned, and our leadership team. And then all working toward that common goal of differentiating instruction and looking for that individual growth. So the common goal in mind. And then teachers met the needs of students during AOT, as we mentioned, that intentional learning group, the individualized support and instruction, and then also intentional planning. So we were really explicit this year with helping the staff structure their AOT so that they had time to think about, this is going to be my group that I'm meeting for small group instruction. This is the group that's going to be retaking a test. And so it really was that planning and preparation. We have students that sign up in advance for AOT, so teachers are able to prepare in advance, so it's not kind of a drop-in system, but that they are really, the students are intentional in where they're going, and the teachers are intentional in planning and preparing for them.
So can you just remind us a little, like AOT? So AOT is a time period, all the kids are in their class, so I might be in my math class, but I need help in science, so I'm gonna sign up for that science teacher.
Yeah.
And go get help then. If I don't need help, then I'm just gonna stay in my math class and.
No, so AOT is every Thursday, and it happens between 5th and 6th hour. So it's a transition period where all students after 5th hour are relocating to their AOT location that they've signed up for. And so they are required to sign up for a teacher on their schedule. So I can't go back to, I'm an 8th grader, I can't go back to my favorite 6th grade teacher to just stop in and visit. I'm going to sign up for an AOT that is a teacher that I currently have on my academic schedule. Another piece that we haven't mentioned, which is also part of our AOT, is Heather Lewis. She comes into our AOT sessions on Thursdays, and she is assigned through Pete Gould's classes. So she does mindfulness and our SEL piece, and they do a lot of activities around social emotional well-being. So students can sign up through his classes for that. And then we have our frozen AOT, which is twice a month on Tuesday, which is completely focused on our SEL.
Thank you.
Okay, so those are our celebrations as far as the activities that we've accomplished this year. Again, I mean, this is always ongoing work, so we'll just fine tune it and make progress as next year continues. And our next steps are to not only continue to deliver that explicit instruction, But we've started looking at our assessments and the higher order thinking and the text-based responses that students are providing. So we'll continue to dig deeper into that work this upcoming year. And then teachers are going to review our SEC, which is really those focus skill areas in our content areas. So we have kind of the answer key for the SEC for math, science, ELA, and we were able to identify the elective classes. So we'll be looking more specifically at the skills that need to be taught at each grade level to make sure that our instruction is aligned with those skills. So those are our big next steps for next year around Goal 1. Any questions for us?
No, a lot of work. Good job, nice.
It's good work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the Ingham, the ISD Board of Education. So this is not, Betsy found our rules of order, which allow us not to set aside the rules, because otherwise this would, we would have to discuss it, vote on it, and they need the vote back in June. So this rule of order allows us, basically states that we do not have to set aside the rules to vote on the ISD candidate. So we will be voting on a candidate and who we're sending to do our voting. So in these instructions, there's 2 open 2-year seats, right? 2 candidates to fill the 2-year seats. So those are, I mean, they're gonna automatically win. And then we have 2 candidates, Joe Goering and Caitlin Salo, for 1 opened seat. Joe Goering sat on this board. I mean, he would have my vote unless anybody else has.
I would agree with that.
Same.
I mean, he was a board member on this board.
Yeah.
That would be weird not to. He did a good job. He had to remove himself for his position that he had with MASB. So if we're all going to agree to have Joel be, I mean, we'll vote for the other 2 candidates, but they automatically are in. We'll submit our vote for Joel. Here is, does it give the time of when their board meetings,
6.
their board meeting starts at 6?
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And
June 2nd.
Yeah, so it's the same day as our board
It
meeting.
always happens that way.
I know. Also, if one of our teams, is it just baseball that would be playing in the final tournament?
Yeah, that
Their
night.
championship game is that night.
Yeah, so the championship game is that night. If Williamston baseball makes it to the championship game, this happened last year where we
Yeah.
moved our meeting up. So who knows what's gonna happen? But we do need someone to go and submit our vote. Is anybody willing to drive to Mason to submit our vote? And you just submit the vote and then you leave. And then you'll come back to our meeting. Anyone?
Sure.
Okay. So Sarah will be our member and then we need an alternate. I'm okay being the alternate, but
Well,
then.
no, you can't, because I would have to, well,
Right,
somebody
but
else
then
would
you wouldn't go,
and- yeah.
right, but if you weren't going, then I can't, so I can't, that doesn't make sense, 'cause-
Then Chris or Amanda would fill in as president.
right,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
just
done.
awkward.
okay, so we need an alternate. Heather
I'll
will
be able to be there, so just in name only, yeah.
Right, she's going, voting, coming back.
Yes.
Heather will be our alternate,
And I just want to say, not only has Joel been a past board member, but he understands how boards run. I do want to note that an ISD board runs differently than a school board, but he has a lot of experience and a lot of tools in his belt that
He used to work for MASB.
I was gonna say he was legal for MASB, so I have no doubt that he has students at the forefront of every decision that he makes, and I I think he would make a great
Right, and
board member.
and I agree, and I think just his legal expertise, we never called him ASB, we just went, I mean, Joel did, Adam's first contract and helped us walk through things, and so I think he'd be a great addition, and I would highly recommend him to anybody who would call and ask.
Agree.
So I appreciate, Sarah, you driving out there and submitting our vote. Okay, next action items. Do I have a motion for our consent calendar?
Sorry, I have to bring it up
Anybody?
first.
Okay. I was gonna be like, anybody?
Motion that the
Thank you.
Williamston Board of Education approve
Thanks,
the
Chris.
minutes of the regular meeting held on May 5th, 2025 as presented.
Second.
Okay, first Chris, second Sarah. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Lots of roll calls.
There are, but I wanna, this is the approval of the construction material testing. So I'm gonna give us a minute here. Again, these are all the things that we voted on to, when we said, Christmas was gonna do this and all of this stuff, we already gave them permission to go ahead and do this. So we're gonna have a first, we're gonna have a second, and then we'll have some explanation under like that discussion part, and then we'll vote. So this does not have to be a set aside the real vote. Again, we've already done this.
Yep.
Just clarifying that for anybody who's listening. So can I please have a motion for the construction material testing?
I make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education award a contract to SME to conduct construction material testing for the softball field complex and tennis courts. The cost of this work will not exceed $42,500 with funding from the 2024 bond.
Second.
Okay, so I have a first Sarah, second Heather, and then I'm gonna open it up for discussion and Brandon.
Yeah, just if there's any questions in general, but the idea behind the material testing is just making sure that, hey, like the big thing with these tennis courts is, hey, the concrete is the right mixture, it's the right, whatever the engineer specified, it's meeting like the hardness, it's not too wet, it's not too dry, it hasn't been sitting out in the parking lot for 8 hours churning, and now we have bad concrete. So that's like an example. It's also like making sure like, hey, like Chris I talked about as far as the subgrade, hey, the subgrade is the proper material, it's compacted properly, so then we get the finished product onto the concrete, hey, it's set up right, and these last us, 20, 30 years and not, a couple of years like the asphalt type of tennis courts. So the big thing with the testing is the concrete. It's also things like the mortar that they're using. They're doing like the block walls, making sure that's the proper material and it's good material being used and it's being installed properly. Again, just like it's a checks and balance on our investment.
So is this done by like a third party or another?
Yeah, so like this SME, like they will actually be the ones doing the testing. So I'll be working like with Andrew from Chrisman and his team to say like, hey, we've got, a concrete pour coming up this day, so we need to make sure, SME's out here with their testers and their SME's here, they're testing it on site, they do some testing stuff. So like we'll work closely with them.
And will this be for all of our projects?
This specifically is just for the tennis court and the baseball. But yeah, once we get into like addition, like as far as like build, like
Yeah,
if
like
we're,
when we start Explore.
yeah, like so when we
we'll
start
test-
explore, like yes, it'll be same type of process.
We'll be testing too.
Yep, we'll be testing that stuff. Like when we're doing stuff like, hey, we're replacing flooring. No, we don't need to test the flooring.
More-
But yeah, when it's a bigger like the new construction stuff.
Interesting. And this testing helps with the roots and all of that happened in the tennis court, making sure they've gone down far enough, making sure the concrete is thick enough. Is that all part of this?
It's not necessarily like as far as like it's making sure like that They're not gonna sit there and like test the hay to make sure the roots are gone, but they're gonna make sure that the surface itself is like, hey, prepared properly and it's the right material, whatever the engineers called out to specify. It's, you know,
What that
the
is.
type of gravel, how hard it is, with the thickness of everything, then making sure that stuff's proper.
Interesting. Any other
I
questions?
have a quick question. Is this because maybe in the past, some people that are doing construction substitute a cheaper material and you don't always know it? Is that?
Yeah, this is a common practice in construction, so it's not just anything specifically here with Williamston schools. This is common practice in construction.
So it's
Why it originated, I'm guessing for something like that. Or they came back and, hey, we poured, we put these brand new tennis courts in and they failed in a year. Well, why did they fail? Well, we didn't do any testing. We don't know, did the subcontractor who's pouring the concrete, did they put the right concrete in for tension, or the right fibers in the concrete itself, stuff like that.
Sounds like a good idea.
Any other questions? Okay, Deb, can you take us through roll call, please?
Chris?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Deb? Yes. Yep, motion passes.
Okay, next, approval of the recommended contractors for the softball complex.
I make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education award contracts for the softball field complex to the vendors as detailed and recommended by Chrisman Company. The cost of this work will not exceed $1,782,134 with funding from the 2024 bond.
Second.
Okay, so I have a first Sarah, second Deb, and then
Andrew with Christmas Company.
Andrew. All right.
Yep. So I
Is there
can give
anything
you,
you want to add?
I
or-
can give you just a brief overview of what the project is. So this is for the softball project for the new concessions building that has a storage building also. There's concessions, there's a storage room, mechanical room, men's bathroom, women's bathroom, each has 4 stalls in those bathrooms. And then also there's the dugouts, replacing the visitor dugout and the home dugout. And the home dugout also has stairs that goes up to a coach's room. They've got like windows, basically like a press box, kind of overlooking the fields. And so that is for what this project
All
is
of
for.
that. Where, and might, like, if I'm going out to our parking lot, Adam, and we're seeing, like, third base, I'm guessing, where's all of this stuff gonna be? Would it be like around from, like, third base around to first base, or just
Kind of
behind
picture
home
where
plate?
the home dugout is on the third base line.
Mhm.
Basically, kind of right behind that, maybe 20, 25 feet behind that is where the concessions building would be at.
Okay,
So
and then the bathrooms?
It's
are they
all one
attached?
building.
It's all
it's
one,
all one building. The concession, not the dugouts. The dugouts are 2 separate buildings.
right, but,
But the concessions bathroom building is all one building.
and those are where the stairs will go up to, or where is that gonna
The
go?
stairs are the home dugout. There's the home dugout on the first floor, and then there's stairs off to the side. They're interior stairs, and they will go up to a press box / coach's room is what we're calling it, overlooking the field, right above the home dugout.
Home dugout.
Yep.
Adam, will those bathrooms be open during school hours for students at recess to use? Or
Yeah, we've discussed that and decided the answer will be no. They're only outside for a very limited amount of time, and supervision and maintenance of them would be not worth the bodily inconvenience that they have for only being outside a short amount of time.
Nice. Any other questions? This is a long-awaited project for our softball team. They
Thank you.
deserve it. Thank you very much. Okay, Deb, do you want to take us through roll call, please?
Chris?
Yes.
Sarah?
yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes?
Deb? Yes. Motion passes.
Okay, might I please have a motion for the high school classroom furniture?
I make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education approve the purchase of furniture for the high school. The cost of the items from KI will not exceed $397,414.47, including freight and assembly. The cost for items from Weiser will not exceed $288,343.24, plus 20% for freight, assembly, and installation. Monies for these purchases will come from the 2024 bond.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a first Sarah, second Deb. Deb, will you take us through roll call?
Chris,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Deb, yes. Motion passes.
Okay, can I please have a motion for the resolution for the ISD candidates and election representative?
Whereas the biennial election of the Board of Ingham Intermediate School District, Michigan, the ISD Board, will be held on Monday, June 2nd, 2025. And two, the members of the ISD Board will be elected by an electoral body composed of one person designated by the board of each of the constituent school districts. And three, in accordance with Section 614.2 of the revised School Code, MCL 380.6142, this board desires to designate Sarah Bellinger as this district's proposed representative and Heather Gorsline as an alternate designated representative in the event that the designated representative is unable to attend, and further desires to direct said representative and alternate to vote on behalf of this board for a specific candidate. Now therefore be it resolved that, one, this board does hereby approve the designation of Sarah Bellinger as the representative of this board for the electoral body, which body will elect three candidates to the vacancies on the ISD board on Monday, June 2nd, 2025, and Heather Gorsline as an alternate in the event the designated representative is unable to attend. Two, the designated representative and alternate are further directed to cast a vote on the first ballot on behalf of this board for Michael Flowers and Aaron Shore for the 2 6-year terms, and Joel Gearing for the 1 partial term, 2-year seat. Three, the secretary of this board is hereby further directed to file a certified copy of this resolution with the secretary of the ISD board for all resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution, and the same are hereby rescinded.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So first Chris, second Heather. Is there any other discussion on that? Okay, Deb, will you take us through roll call?
Chris,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Deb, yes. Motion passes.
Okay, may I please have a motion for the approval of the ISD general fund budget?
Whereas Section 624 of the revised school code as amended requires the intermediate school board to submit its proposed budget not later than May 1st of each year to the board of each constituent district for review, and two, not later than June 1st of each year, the board of each constituent district shall review the proposed intermediate school district budget, shall adopt a board resolution expressing its support or disapproval of the proposed intermediate school district budget, and shall submit to the intermediate school board any specific objections and proposed changes the constituent district board has to that budget. Now therefore be it resolved that, one, the Board of Education has received the revised and reviewed the proposed intermediate school district budget in accordance with Section 624 of the revised school code as amended, and by the adoption of this resolution expresses its support for the proposed intermediate school district budget. Two, the Secretary of the Board of Education or his or her designee shall forward a copy of this resolution to the intermediate school board or its superintendent no later than June 1st, 2025. All resolutions insofar as they conflict with this resolution be and the same are hereby rescinded.
Second?
All right, so I have a first by Chris, second by Sarah. Any other discussion? Can you take us through roll call, Deb?
Chris,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Deb, yes. It passes unanimously.
Okay, all those motions have passed. Moving on to separate action items, these are not roll call. Can I have a motion to approve the Discovery Elementary handbook?
I make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education approve the Discovery Elementary 2025-2026 student handbook as presented.
Second. So we have a first by Sarah, second by Heather. Also, I just want to remind everybody what Deb said, adding into their handbook, which then if we approve their handbook in 2 weeks, that will trigger them to add this to this, that the students need to be present with their
She made it present with an adult and supervised.
supervised. So that will be added. So what we're voting on today is assumed that we'll vote for the middle school handbook, they will add that in. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This will be the same for the Explorer handbook also. Can I have a motion for the Explorer handbook?
I move that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education approve the Explore Elementary 2025-2026 student handbook as presented.
Second. So I have a first Deb, second Heather. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I please have a motion for the board policies?
Make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education approve the following board policies as revised. 1171, board membership, student representative, and 8940, student records and FERPA.
Second.
Do we have a second motion for the rewrites? Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
We do.
Okay, so first Chris, second Deb. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, can I please have a motion for the board policies of rewrites?
Make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education approve the following board policies as rewritten. 3280 borrowing, 3300 investment of funds, 3400 depository of funds, 3500 account and audits, 3610 purchasing and procurement, 3800 student activities fund, and 5410 employment contracts.
Second.
So I have a first Chris, second by Deb. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Okay, we have our board goals there. We did have a thank you card for communication. Any citizen comments? Nope. Board member reports or requests.
I do have some flyers to pass around for the concert series, and the very first concert is the middle school and high school jazz bands will be playing. It is the same night as the ice cream social, but this goes until 9, and I think the social ends at 8, so you might be able to catch the last hour if you want. These are the concerts for the entire summer.
Thank you. We do have, I just want to, Heather, you're doing the awards assembly tomorrow, I think it's, and Deb, you're doing it also. Okay, so we have that covered. Ice cream social, I think Dave was gonna go. I can go for a little bit, and you're going to that, okay? We have that covered. She sent an email, just when you get there, you need to check in like you normally do. I'll pass that on to you and Dave. I also attended yesterday the MASA, right? Math and Science Academy, MSA, whatever. The kids did a great job. They always do. There were some robotic type of things that they did, and then some research projects. They put a lot of time in it, and it seemed to be well attended and did a nice job. I know also that Mrs. Olson, the kindergarten garden party, they're moving it. It is Wednesday. They're moving it into the gym just automatically because their rain date is, they're getting ready for the ice cream social, and it's supposed to rain, and they just made the decision to move it in. So if you're able to attend it, it's super cute. It's a great event. That is Wednesday, 2 o'clock, and they're just moving it inside to the gym, whether it rains or not. That's all I have on my list. Anybody else have anything else? I know there's a lot going on. We kind of mentioned this, I do just want people to be aware that if baseball makes it into the finals, which would be at our next meeting in June, that we will consider moving that meeting up to, I think we moved it up to 5 o'clock, an hour early. So administrators, that of course, it's our high school baseball team, and they have to be here to present their school improvement plan and their handbook stuff. So we'll move as quickly as we can, but getting all of our questions answered, but just be prepared that we might need to move that, or we'll be looking at moving that up, so our administrators can attend. That any of us can attend. I went last year, it was a really fun event. Any other reports, requests?
Adam, do you wanna mention the project out here?
Not this meeting,
Okay,
Okay, I will have,
not quite finalized.
okay.
can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
So first Chris, second Deb, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Everybody have a great night.